So if you clicked on this video and are here watching right now, the odds are good that you are probably feeling a lot of frustration and feeling ready to possibly give up on manifestation. If you are resonating with any of this so far, then this video is absolutely for you. Because I speak from personal experience as somebody who has been there, and you are not alone in this. Today I want to talk about what do we do when we feel like we are up against a wall and ready to give up on manifesting. Should we stop trying to manifest? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into that answer because the short answer, if you are feeling burnt out, frustrated, angry, is yes. Yes, we want to stop trying to manifest. Now wait just a second before you click off this video in anger. Hear me out. If you are like most people in this situation, you are feeling a lot of inner conflict right now. Because on the one hand, perhaps you have been doing all the things that you have been taught to do from all the videos, from all the blog posts, the TikToks and other social media. Perhaps you have been visualizing, you have been affirming, you've been adhering to a strict mental diet, you've been doing all of the things, and yet nothing, no change. And now you are feeling stuck. You're doubting. You're questioning yourself. You're wondering if perhaps this is all just a bunch of crazy BS and maybe it was stupid to even believe that any of this is possible in the first place. For those of you that have watched my channel and my other videos, I do speak often about the trials and tribulations that I've personally faced on my journey and a lot of the inner conflict, the roller coasters, the ups and downs, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It can get overwhelming very quickly. Because although we are frustrated and a part of us just wants to move on already, the thought of giving up and letting go strikes fear in us because we don't want to give up on what we desire. We don't want to let go and move on with our lives. That is not in our nature because as we all know, giving up on the desire doesn't mean that we stop desiring. It just means that we're now living with a void, a yearning, a longing, a hunger that feels like it never gets filled. And then before we know it, we are now stuck between an impossible rock and a hard place. So what do we do? First, to be abundantly clear, when I speak about giving up on trying to manifest, I am not referring to giving up on your desires. That is not the message that I'm relaying in this video and not the thing I want you walking away with. What I do want you to take away from this video is that if you have been trying at this, if you feel like you have been pushing yourself, if you feel like you have been putting in the work, if you are feeling exhausted, burnt out, confused, uncertain, double-minded, then the message here is to take a different approach. We need to shift our perspective as to how we are looking at this whole manifestation thing. Because for many people, especially for those who are new to these teachings, who are new to manifestation, conscious creation, the law of assumption, there is a fundamental disconnect that keeps us stuck in the spinning hamster wheel indefinitely. Most people, especially for those who are new to these teachings, tend to see this practice as a means to an end, almost like it's magic. That if I cast the right spell or I wave this wand in the correct way, then it will magically materialize. And it's this mentality that keeps us stuck in trying to get it through effort, willpower, and force. Because the reason you are feeling so tired is because you have been exerting effort and energy into something that should feel natural for you. The truth is, when we try hard in this area, when it comes to the law, what we are actually saying and what the subconscious is picking up on is that it's not here yet. I don't have it. So therefore, I need to do more to make it happen. But the law of assumption is not a reward for hard work. The law of assumption is a set of teachings that state the truth in that all of your 3D circumstances is just a mirror of who you are internally. It is all just a mirror of your inner state of being. It is all just the reflection of your beliefs and assumptions. Nothing more, nothing less. So if the outer world is just a mirror of the inner world, and internally we are somebody who is lacking our desire and trying to get it, then what is the mirror going to reflect? Somebody who doesn't have it. That is the reflection. And then we try harder, we try to look for new techniques, we watch a whole bunch of videos, pour through all of these posts, anything that we can get our hands on for more information, when everything that we need and everything that we have to understand, when you already have everything you need for your ultimate success. But it is when you stop trying so damn hard that you will actually start to see things shift into place for you. And in my personal experience, this was one of the most difficult things to fully grasp. As somebody who was very type A, perfectionist, a go-getter with a good work ethic, I was constantly burning the candle at both ends, thinking that if I just do more techniques or spend more time in meditation or concentrate harder, focus more, then I could get it to show up faster. Everything changed when I had a realization, when I had a change in perception. And that realization was this: manifestation is not about getting what you want. It is about becoming who you desire to be. And there is a stark difference in those two things, because those two things come with two very different approaches. It wasn't until the shift in perspective that things actually started to click for me. That shift in perspective went from me trying to get something on the outside, from trying to force a change to the 3D, to instead focus on changing self, changing myself, how I felt, what I was identifying with, what I was naturally believing and assuming to be true. If the outer world is purely a reflection of the inner, then it is the inner world that I want to change, not the outside. Those 3D desires are the natural byproduct of the corresponding state of consciousness, which basically means that if you want to see the change to the outside, you must first be the person who has it internally, in imagination. So yes, we must stop trying to force a change to the 3D. We must stop giving all of the focus and attention to fixing the outside, to trying to solve the problem, to constantly focusing on the absence and the lack, or the time that it's been, or succumbing to all of the fears and anxieties, all of the things that scream, I don't have it. I am not the person who has this. Because you cannot change anything out here, not consciously at least. But you most certainly change what you are doing in here. When I say we must quit trying, that means that we have to take a different approach to how we have been going at this than what we have been doing, because we cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. We cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and think things are somehow going to be different this time. That is the definition of insanity. And that approach that we must start to take, the way that we have to start looking at this going forward, is not what do I want in the 3D, but how do I want to feel? And then through the power of your own wonderful human imagination, give that feeling to yourself. Imagine it. Imagine already having it. And really allow yourself to relax into that imaginal act. Allow yourself to really get behind what you are feeling into. Allow yourself to imagine something lovely purely for the sake of enjoying the feeling of it. So again, we must stop trying to manifest the 3D change and instead focus on how do I want to feel? What would it feel like? The feeling of already being the person I desire to be, or already having what I desire to have. And then let yourself completely go there for the experience of it, to enjoy the feeling of it. A lot of the time, we are too frightened to really let ourselves go all in on this route. Too much of the time, we are too scared to really allow ourselves to go all in on this, to imagine boldly, to imagine fully and deeply with conviction, because we're scared that it's not going to happen in the 3D. We're scared of what's going to happen if it doesn't show up. Everything changed when I realized this is not about trying to get something in the outside. This is not about forcing a change to the 3D. This is about the change in self. Manifestation, the law of assumption, is about changing the self. It is about changing the mind, changing ourself, not the 3D circumstances. So if you feel like you want to quit due to the lack of results and due to the fear that nothing is going to change for you, and if there's fear in changing the self, then I just have one question for you. What is the alternative? What is the alternative to changing the self? The answer is that everything stays the same. Nothing changes. Life will continue in the same patterns, the same circumstances, the same events, perhaps different faces, but it's going to be a repeat of the same old, because life is always giving you what you are naturally assuming and believing to be true. This was the root of the realization that changed my life, because with that change in perspective of no longer needing to try to change the 3D and try to manifest on the outside, but instead just focused on being who I wanted to be, imagining what I desired for the sake of fulfillment and enjoyment within myself, that is how everything changed. So yes, we must give up on this idea of trying to force the outside, of fixating on the 3D, on trying to get this person to change, on putting everything else on the pedestal except yourself. And I felt inspired to make this video to invite you to consider a change in your approach. If what you have been doing has not worked and is not working, and if you are feeling like you hit a wall and you're frustrated and you're ready to throw in the towel, I urge you not to throw away your desire, not to give up on what you want, but to give up the fight, give up the control, give up the fear around needing this thing to happen in your 3D so badly that you have resorted to torturing yourself. When we really start to realize that it all starts first from within, and that we have the utmost control and power as to what we do within ourselves, that we can choose what to focus on, we can choose what to imagine new things, new concepts, new ideas, new scenarios, and enjoy the feeling of that. To enjoy a lovely thought instead of chewing on something that makes us feel anxious. I invite you to stop fighting yourself and give up the struggle. Because it is when we stop fighting, it is when we surrender the need to try to force a change, that everything begins to fall into place naturally. And we know this because we have experienced this before. The minute we stop trying to push and shove and make it happen, the minute we stop focusing so much on all the things that are terrible and all the things that we don't want, the minute that we say, I surrender this, and I'm just allowing myself to internalize what I want to feel, that is when everything begins to move for you. That is when you get unstuck. If you need to take a break, if you are feeling exhausted, if you are feeling like you just cannot continue, then rest. Give yourself what you need. Nourish yourself, take care of yourself, prioritize yourself first, and then try a different approach. Try imagining things that are lovely and of good report, that fill you with inspiration, that fill you with joy, that fill you with satisfaction, because the alternative is to continue on the path of anxiety, desperation, and fear. And if we had a choice, which of the two sound better? Because if we are coming at this from a place of fear and desperation and urgency, we are setting ourselves up for failure from the get-go. And if we are not careful in how we are approaching these teachings, things can get toxic very quickly. And I speak from firsthand experience. Toxic positivity, spiritual bypassing, gaslighting ourselves, suppressing our emotions. That fear and desperation quickly turns into anger and resentment. Feeling like we wasted our time, feeling like this is all bullshit, feeling like we are kidding ourselves. So if this is how we've been feeling and how we have been approaching these teachings, I urge you to shift your perspective and try this from a different angle. We must remember that the kingdom of heaven is within you, and it is the Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom. But first, we must turn within, where it all resides. And once you take the path of least resistance, once you stop trying so hard to manifest and to get and to change the 3D and focus the attention on you and how you want to feel, once you understand this cornerstone of the law of assumption, everything in your world will change. without effort and like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you found some motivation and inspiration in these words. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you are interested in checking out any of my other resources, I will have links down below to my coaching programs, my workshops, masterclasses, my blog, my podcast, my social links. Got a ton of great resources down in the description box below, so don't forget to check it out. Also be sure to check out the other videos on this channel. Don't forget to check out my Manifestation Fundamentals playlist. Each video is a different topic, but it all talks about how to manifest the best life ever. So until we meet next time, you guys, as always, please take care, be well, and never forget how powerful you truly are. Happy manifesting, guys.